Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a fun top 10 video to share with you guys. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my top 10 favorite overbuilt knives in existence. I've handled a lot of stuff, right? Look at stuff from the perspective of somebody who's going to use it as a tool and how efficient it's going to be day to day, right? And then I look at other stuff that just has interesting, in some cases, novelty elements that I just like, right? I'm just attracted. We're all like that in one way, shape, or form. My thing has always been kind of more meaty, robust knives. I just like them. I know that there's not really, in a lot of cases, there's not really an argument that can be made for excess durability or capability. More often than not, all I'm doing is weighing myself down to carry the same type of object that also cuts, and in some cases doesn't cut as well. I don't care. I like thick knives. I like meaty and robust knives. Why? I'm not really sure. I think that seed was planted very early on with my venture into the knife world, right around 2010 to 2012, right? So that's just kind of what happened. I've done this list in the past, specifically with budget knives. I've done a discussion topic on it, but I want to share with you guys my favorites. Some of these will be available, and some of them will not. I will link the ones that are available right down in the description, and I'll probably link some of the ones that aren't available right now if I think that they will become available in the future. So make sure that you check out the description of this video. Thank you so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. You can find a link for Patreon down in the description, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. All right, let's start off with some honorable mentions, right? A lot of these you can get right now. One of my favorite overbuilt knives ever is definitely the Cold Steel SR1, and this is the Cold Steel SR1 Lite. If you're on a budget and you're like, I just want a big tank of a knife, right? Oh my gosh, the SR1 Lite is 60 bucks. Yeah, it's only working with 8CR 13 MOV. Considering how this knife was made, what it was made to be used for, at the end of the day, if you're really going to go out and beat on it the way that it was meant to be beat on, it almost doesn't matter what the blade steel is, right? Listen, if you care that much, there is an upgraded version of this in S35VN and G10 for much more money. I think it's 160 to 200 depending on which blade ship you get. Comes in drop point and Tanto. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff that's not available on this list. This knife alone will scratch that itch for a lot of people. I will link this and the more expensive one down below. I'm also going to include, and you're going to see images here of the other knives that are honorable mentions that didn't quite make the top 10. Let's be honest. Cold Steel is kind of the king of overbuilt knives in the $100 to $200 territory. They make a lot of extremely capable, and in some cases excessively capable or unnecessarily capable stuff in this territory. And a lot of this, including the SR1 Lite and the premium version, are utilizing the Triad lock, which is arguably one of the best locks that exists. I'm also going to include the Cold Steel and Demco MG815. That's super cool and has an awesome, unique lock, right? Demco invented the Triad lock. He also invented the Scorpion lock. There's no reason that one should be stronger than the other. Absolutely capable. And then also, of course, the Demco MG810 through Cold Steel. That's utilizing the Triad lock. Big, nasty, overbuilt knife. Those are definitely honorable mentions. All Cold Steel stuff, right? And then also the Artisan Cutlery Proponent. It's a perfect example of a knife that is actually not convenient to use at all. It's just neat because it's so stupidly thick. I think what I'm showing here is most likely the brass one, which I think you can get through Smoky Mountain Knife Works. It is so heavy and so ridiculous. It's not comfortable. It's a flipper, and it's actually a liner lock, right? So there's a lot of elements here that don't necessarily translate to actual capability, which again is a theme with this. I want you guys to understand, overbuilt to me just means it's a lot of different elements, but it's not exclusively how capable or durable it is. It's sort of the novelty essence of a big old thick, nasty, meaty boy. That's really all it is, right? So these are all honorable mentions. They're not quite on my top 10, but they're definitely great. And most of these you can get right now. So like I said, check out the links down below. Moving on here, let's get a couple of obvious ones out of the way. If you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that the Hinderer XM24 is one of my favorite overbuilt knives and one of my favorite knives of all time. This one's in full titanium, making it a true super beast. I've also got, of course, the Dark Horse XM24 in carbon fiber. And then I'll also just, you know, so that it doesn't take up another spot on the list, I'll include the XM18 3.5 inch. The 3 inch is a little small for me, but these knives are all considered overbuilt. Hinderer knives are overbuilt, but they also kind of work, right? Especially the 3.5 inch one. Base weight on the 3.5 inch, something like 5 1/4 ounces. You add a tie scale to it, you're going to increase the weight anywhere from 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce, depending on whether or not it's a milled or unmilled scale. The XM24 comes in at like 7 1/4 ounces. You add a tie scale to it, it's definitely going to be more than that. These are big, thick, meaty boys. 187 thousandths on the spine. I know people are going to aggressively force through in the comment section. It's just really thick on the spine. It's just too thick to cut. I don't understand why anybody ever want to buy one of these. Yeah, we know. People who like overbuilt knives are not laboring under any sort of delusion that they've got an advantage in cutting performance. We know. You don't need to tell us. A lot of us just like thick knives because they're thick. They'll still cut. They definitely won't cut as good as an open L, right? It doesn't really matter. I really just don't care. I like overbuilt knives enough to spend multiple hundreds of dollars, close to $1,000 on an overbuilt knife just because that brings me joy. And I've done it many times, as you're about to see. And of course, you know, if you're familiar with my channel, then you know I do this a lot. I just really like overbuilt knives. So yeah, the XM24 and XM18 3.5 inch definitely on that list. Let's get another obvious one out of the way, right? Just so we can move on to stuff that might be a little more interesting. The Demco AD20, the MG815, the top one here in titanium and the bottom one is in G10. Both of these knives have blade stock thicknesses of about 180 thousandths. They are definitely thick. The titanium one definitely gives off like the chunky overbuilt. Like this is the third unique lock that was designed by Andrew Demco, and again is as strong or stronger than the Triad lock and the Scorpion lock. Those are his words. So yeah, it has the durability and capability essence to it. And it also just gives off that big, meaty, chunky vibe that I like, right? Couple that with the fact that we actually have fidget factor. I mean, there's no overbuilt knife in existence that has the same type of fidget factor as this. And I mean, honestly, I think this is more fidget friendly than any. If you're just attracted to that big overbuilt nature in a knife, the Demco 8020 has that, and then some other magical unicorn stuff that goes along with it. It's just excellent. It's absolutely one of my favorite overbuilt knives ever. Moving on here to number 3, one of the knives that I've been EDCing a lot lately, and that is the Strider 3/4 AR. I've been talking about this so much, how it broke in so unbelievably smooth. Despite being, this is built by Medford, but it's a Strider design. You can still buy this right now. It's freaking expensive. $600. This particular version is the S90V DLT Trading exclusive variant, which I will link right down below. Yeah, when I got it, it was tight, difficult to disengage, clunky, awkward, bricky, right? It's all there. But man, once it broke in, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's not an ergonomic masterpiece, right? But it is thick, 187 thousandths. It gives me that feeling of a big, tanky, robust knife. It doesn't carry all that bad. I think it weighs a little over 6 ounces, something like that. If you like overbuilt knives, this is definitely one to add to your collection. US made. A lot of this stuff is US made, right? That's kind of my thing. I like a lot of stuff. I'm not exclusive to any one particular thing, but I really like meaty, chunky US knives. It was a huge bonus that this thing broke in so smooth that I can reverse flick it. No problem. You can also do, you know, the standard, whoops, caught it a little awkward there. You can do the standard thumb flick with it if you can catch that little thumb stud. Well, it's actually an external stop. Or you can use the hole and thumb flick it out, no problem. Or you can Spidey drop it. It's kind of a Spyderco knife on steroids, right? It's kind of a weird genetic experiment with a Spyderco knife. I love this thing. It's really cool. Moving on here to number 4. These are in no particular order, by the way. The Microtex Stitch. I had to include some autos on this list. Not many automatic knives can truly tout that overbuilt title. This thing is definitely overbuilt. 187 thousandths on the blade stock, right? We've got very thick aircraft aluminum. It's one of the hardest firing autos that I have ever felt. It fires freaking hard. Everything on this knife, A lot of the other elements that I love about overbuilt knives are the oversized fasteners. I just love that. Everything about this is just stupidly chunky, right? It doesn't need to be, all these little pieces of hardware don't necessarily need to be that big, but it's cool that they are, right? I will always be attracted to this weird, excessively meaty look, right? This thing's got its own attitude going on, of course, the choil and the harpoon notch, right? Just the blade shape in general. Yeah, it'd be nice if this was manual, right? Like the original, like the freaking unobtainable $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 version from Borka blades, right? But it isn't. This is the less expensive. This is the more obtainable version. This version itself is very difficult to get. It comes in at about $400. It's American made. I love it. Mainly the reason I'm attracted to it is just because it's stupidly overbuilt for a side opening auto. Ugh, I'll never get tired of that. Love it. Moving on here, let's see. Yeah, number 5. I've always been a fan of this knife. That's the new Chavez 229 Redemption. This is not, the original, or the custom, is definitely a U.S. knife. Ramon Chavez does make knives out of the United States. And the original mid-tech, the 228, was also an American mid-tech, coming in about $500. This guy's made by Riot. Blade stock is a little thinner at about 165 thousandths, but the rest of the knife, the rest of the essence of it was captured, and it's actually a 1/4 inch longer than the 228 mid-tech. So while the 228 mid-tech and definitely the custom, the original custom was like a 1/4 inch thick on the spine. The 228 mid-tech was 187 thousandths. This guy's 165 thousandths, but it's a little longer than the 228. This definitely has all the elements here. We've got big, chunky titanium scales that are not milled out on the inside. It's hefty, right? But you get that Riot build quality. Now, this one, not made in the United States, but they do come in at $350, making it one of the less expensive titanium / M390 knives that are, you know, on this list. Yeah, this whole thing is just like this big, aggressive chunk of titanium, and it feels that way. Despite being a little thinner than some of the knives that I've got on this list, it definitely, you pick this thing up and you're just like, God dang, right? It's a little bit angular. It's going to be inconvenient to cut in some situations. Doesn't matter. That's not the criteria. Function is not one of the main criteria here. It's just the essence of being a big, meaty boy. And this is definitely a meaty boy, right? Think what you want about the clip. The new ones in the future will come. I believe you'll have an option to either have the skull clip or not have the skull clip. I like it. I feel like that's a part of the Chavez 229, right? You take that away and that's going to appeal to a lot more, maybe some other people. But when I think of the Chavez 229, that's what I think of first, the pocket clip. And of course, the massively overbuilt nature. I just love it. Moving on here, a knife that I do not have physically with me, but rest assured, like everything else on this list, I have reviewed it. So you can go back and watch a video of me physically handling it and giving my full thoughts. That's the Microtex Scarab II. Holy crap. This is such a tank of an OTF, right? The only other OTF in existence that's close to it, and I could almost couple it here, is the Guardian Tactical Recon 40. But something about the Scarab, man, it is just such a tank. This is the newest version of the Scarab. It is longer, at about 9 to 9 1/4 inches overall. It has a thicker blade stock, a way thicker handle frame. I've never handled an OTF that feels quite as aggressive as this one. Does it give you some type of tactical advantage? Is this the best OTF out there? No, in fact, in a lot of ways, it's really impractical for the everyman, right? I'm an everyman. I'm a regular guy. I still like this stuff. I have no use, no specific use for any of this stuff, but I want it because I want it, right? It's just what I spend my money on, what I want to spend my money on. I will own a Scarab II. As soon as they become a little bit more readily available. Yeah, these are expensive. What are they? $525? American made. Definitely nothing else like this on the market right now. There's a massively there was a lot of confusion about the springs on the inside. The original Scarab had 2 springs. The first run of the Scarab II also had 2 springs. What they decided to do was not do that and just add 1 incredibly robust spring. It does have a more robust spring than most, if not all, other OTFs on the market right now. There is nothing on the market that fires like a Scarab II. You'll hear people claiming, I bought a $100 OTF from so-and-so and it fires just as hard. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I've handled so many different types of OTFs. The junker ones, the high-end ones, right? The crazy custom ones. There is nothing out there that fires as hard as the Scarab II, and it feels awesome. I love it. Moving on here to number 7. You could say technically I've already put it in honorable mentions, but very specifically this version, the Demco MG815, the real deal, not the one made by Cold Steel, the MG815. I actually reviewed a full titanium variant of this, and it was just wonderful. That scorpion lock does really well with the Cold Steel variant, but it doesn't shine through quite as bright as the true MG815. Or you could say the true version is the custom version, right? This is the machine ground or ultra high-end American production or mid-tech version of the 8015. This is super, super cool, and it is ridiculously capable. If you're handling this knife with your hand, it will not disengage because of the nature of the scorpion lock. If you're trying to use this with your foot, I can't really, vouch for that. Or if you're an octopus or something, right? I don't know. But if you hold it with the human hand, right, which is presumably how you're going to be holding it, that scorpion lock cannot disengage. It's not possible. This is one of the most capable knives on the market. So if you're looking at this list and you're like, I want function with my Overbuilt knives, the MG815, right there with the Demco 8020. Demco does a good job of combining big, aggressive Overbuilt, in some ways novelty Overbuilt, with actual function, right? That's put in there. The MG815 is a perfect example of that. I love, 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 love this knife. Moving on here, it would be a crime to not include a Cold Steel knife on this list. The actual top 10, not the honorable mentions, the actual top 10. What better Cold Steel knife to make this list than the Cold Steel 4MAX? Oh my gosh. You can get this thing, you can get the original, right? There was an American version of this for like $400. 20 CV in gray, maybe, was it gray or tan? There was a tan one and there was a gray one. They were both 20 CV or M390. One was $300 and it was Italian made, or maybe $350. And then there was the American one that was $400. And now we have the 4MAX Scout in AUS 10A and Grivery or Grivex or injection mold plastic of some sort. In my opinion, most likely equally capable, other than, of course, the differences in performance with the composition. Once again, keep in mind, if you're really going to take this thing out and beat the crap out of it the way that it's intended to be used, it does not matter what the blade steel is. You're going to be sharpening it at the end of the day, most likely, right? But, think what you will about composition. I will spend more money for a better composition, even if I don't plan to use it, right? The 4MAX is definitely one of the most aggressively overbuilt, ridiculous. This is a folding, sharpened shovel, is what this is. Impact cutting, chopping, right? I mean, I'm not gonna say Cold Steel's warranty covers this, but prying, listen, if I was gonna pry with a knife, number 1, you need a robust, thick geometry. Number 2, you need a robust, thick tip. Number 3, you probably need the triad lock or something that's made by Demco. This thing checks all those boxes, and because of the enormous size, the enormous weight, and the enormous room on the handle, versatility's off the charts. Now, EDCing something like this, pretty much the same for most of the stuff on this list, it's kind of overkill. But gosh, if you're going to go camping or you're going to be outside, for long periods of time and you're trying to, sort of maximize the versatility of the tools you bring with you and minimize the weight, despite this thing being really, really heavy, it can do a lot of things. It's not the perfect item for every conceivable circumstance, but it'll do a lot of different stuff if you really need it to. You can get the 4MAX Scout right now. The more expensive ones may or may not be available. I'll link it all down below. Number 9. Yeah, I have to include this on the list, especially considering the new one just recently came out, and it is wonderful. Very specifically, the 2021 Benchmade Adamus in crew wear. What a smart move by Benchmade. God, I love this thing. You guys might be thinking, didn't Benchmade send you one of these? Where is it? Why are you showing a picture? That one got sold to a patron. I will most likely buy it again for myself. I won't have Benchmade send me another. I'll buy one for myself. I love this knife. Shane Seibert design, right? Most of the Shane Seibert stuff through Benchmade is pretty overbuilt. Shane Seibert knives in general are really overbuilt. Big, straightforward, aggressive drop point blade. Huge, meaty handles, right? One of the biggest and most robust axis locks I've ever seen. This is a stupidly capable knife. Yeah, you run the risk of the omega springs snapping, right? You properly lubricate them, it's less likely that that'll happen, right? I've never actually had omega springs break. I've been in this game for 10 years. I've never had an omega spring break, and I own multiple knives that I use with omega springs, so I wouldn't really worry about that too much. Runs on phosphor bronze, which is great, you know, for getting out in it. The auto one is great too. These are actually a little less thick on both the blade and the handle thickness versus the original, the one that was in D2. But I don't think that matters. The overbuilt nature here is still absolutely captured. The entire thing fills out the hand in a comfortable, functional way. This is one of the knives on this list where if you are really concerned with the functional elements, you're like, I like overbuilt knives, but I still want it to be a reasonable, usable knife. Yeah, the Adamus. And you could toss the mini Adamus in there. It's not truly in the same overbuilt, you know, caliber as the rest of these, but yeah, these are excellent knives. I absolutely love them. Moving on here, I think it would also I think it would be silly to not recognize this knife. Now, this knife is nowhere near the realm of logical function. I mean, like, it will work, it will cut, right? It will do that, and it is durable, definitely. But as far as convenience, nowhere close, not even on the same planet, if we're going to be talking about convenience. This knife, in many ways, is kind of the king, just because of, you know, it's notorious, right? It was almost, I'm not saying it's the original, I'm saying it's the one that really, it was the one that caused me to gravitate towards overbuilt knives in general. And for a lot of people, it was the same way, even though most people, you know, I don't know how I ever came into a position where I thought I'm going to fork over the money for this, because it's stupidly expensive, right? Most people will never get their hands on this, but I still have to include it. The Medford Praetorian Tie. A 1/4 inch. This is the tie, not the T. The tie, the big boy, the king of the Medfords. A 1/4 inch on the spine. 165 thousandths on the titanium. Oh my gosh, this thing is just a freakish tank. Now look, I know there are makers out there who make bigger knives than this. This is hardly the most overbuilt knife of all time. Number one, I've handled it, which is definitely, you know, part of this list. I have to have handled it and shown a video on it, and I did, right? A lot of people are saying, Anthony Griffith, is it Anthony Griffith? Anthony Griffith? I can't remember. He makes those like gigantic, like stupid hulking tanks, right? Yeah, but are they as famous? Are they as notorious? No, I would say the Praetorian Tie is definitely one of, if not the most famous overbuilt knife of all time. I do still like this knife. I'll probably never own it again. I did own it once, and a lot of people, there are still people out there who are like, Medford only uses D2, I'll never buy one. First off, it was CPM D2 that they were using. It was not the same ingot form D2 that we see on budget knives. And beyond that, Medford now uses a lot of 3V, S35VN. They even use S90V through DLT, right? So the days of that being a thing, that's over. That's a long time ago. If you're still making that argument, you haven't been paying attention. But yeah, I mean, ergonomics, not comfortable. Is it pocket friendly? No, right? It's heavy. It's super thick behind the edge, whether you go with the drop point blade or you go with a Tanto blade. None of that really matters to me when I'm thinking about the Praetorian Tie. I just like it because it's such a ridiculous hulking monster of a knife. I just, you know, I can't deny that that's just why I like it, you know? It's probably always going to make this list. I have fond memories of owning it. Like I said, I'll probably never own it again. You can still pick up different variants. Actually getting your hands on a tie, you're probably going to have to custom order one through Medford and wait 6 months to a year, something like that. You can pick up the T, you can pick up the Genesis T, and in some cases the Micro at various retailers. I'll link that stuff down below if you guys want to pick it up. But yeah, even the T being thinner is still a ridiculous hulking monster, right? Anybody who owns the T, if you've never handled the tie, you're probably holding the T right now thinking, I can't imagine something bigger and more insane than this. But yeah, they do exist. But anyways, I think that's going to be about it. I hope that this was mildly entertaining to you guys. That's all it was meant to be. This is just the ramblings of an insane knife enthusiast who has this weird obsession with mega overbuilt and, in most cases, totally impractical knives, right? That's just the kind of stuff I'm into. I know a lot of you guys are too, right? That's probably why you watch my channels, because I cover a lot of this stuff. Please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.